Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's The Importance of Women in Digital Leadership webinar. My name is Jessica Tracy, and I am the Marketing Manager here at Global eTraining. This webinar today is not just by Global eTraining, it is also by Women in BIM. So we're very excited to team up for today's webinar. And thank you so much for joining us. I will get started here because we have an amazing panel of speakers that I'm so excited to introduce you to, and I'm sure you already know. But I will get started just on a couple hooking things before they join us. So firstly, Women in BIM. In case you don't know, which I'm sure you all know a ton about Women in BIM already, Women in BIM is a diverse network of female professionals in the AEC space. They are dedicated to supporting women in BIM-related roles through skills, education, career progression, all those kinds of things. And they empower women worldwide through mentorship schemes and a ton of successful education and just support online, in person, through events, a ton of great things. So we're really proud to be working with Women in BIM. All of our panelists on today's call are involved with Women in BIM in some capacity or the other. So they will definitely be talking a little bit more about that later. Also, if you're interested in knowing a little bit more about Women in BIM, we'll definitely be sending some great content of theirs in our follow-up email today. So Global eTraining is Women in BIM's corporate sponsor. We're really proud to be partnering with them, like I said. So Global eTraining, or GET, is in the AEC space. So for architects, engineers, construction, and manufacturing firms, we help people attract and retain top talent, stay on the cutting edge of AEC industry trends, and boost productivity and profitability through a massive library of courses, a custom course builder, great tracking and reporting, overall just an amazing knowledge management platform for architecture, engineering, construction, manufacturing. So Global eTraining and Women in BIM, like I said, are partners and friends. And as Women in BIM's corporate sponsor, we are really proud to be offering Women in BIM members 20% off on all of our subscriptions for training, whether you're an individual, whether you're a business, any of our subscriptions, like I said, for Women in BIM members. A couple of housekeeping things. So as you'll notice, attendee microphones are off for the duration of the webinar, but we do really want to hear from you guys and get some great feedback from you guys, answer any questions you might have. I'd love to even hear where you guys are from. So you'll notice a little chat icon. Depending on what device you're on, it'll either be on the bottom or the side of your page. You can just throw a comment or a question there. Let us know where you're calling in from. It's great to see the reach on these kinds of things. If we do have time at the end of the webinar today, we are open to answering a few of your questions. But if we don't get around to you, or we don't get around to questions at all, because I'm sure the conversation is going to be great, we will definitely send you a follow-up email answering any questions you might have. Like I said, there's definitely going to be a follow-up email today, so make sure to check your inbox. If you don't see it within the first half an hour or so after today's webinar, definitely check your spam folders, because there's going to be a ton of great stuff in there, both from Women in BIM and from Global eTraining, and great ways to follow up with today's panelists if you want to follow them, follow their amazing careers and journeys as well. I am at the point where we get into some great content. I want to introduce our speakers. So we'll actually really just let them, introduce themselves. So Abarna, if you want to start us off today, just with a little bit about what you do, your role in Women in BIM.
So hi, everybody. It's great to see we've got 54 attendees so far. It's super exciting to be part of this. So thank you, team, for inviting me here. My name is Abarna Krishnajumar. I'm the VDC Development Manager at ZELUS, located in Phoenix, Arizona. I support the operations team with training, development, kind of bringing great people on board. I've been in the industry for roughly 10 years now, originally from Toronto, Canada, and kind of moved my way around the industry to get to here. So thank you again for inviting me on board.
Of course, we're so happy to have you. I also see we have a couple of people letting us know where they're calling in from. We have Ventura, California. Hopefully I said that right. We've got Wisconsin. Yeah, like I said, definitely throw in where you're coming in from because it's lovely to see. So welcome, Abarna. I'm so happy we have you today. Next we have Cindy, if you want to introduce yourself as well.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Cindy Baldwin. I am the president of VDCO Tech. We're a progressive BIM VDC service providers. We do a lot of owner compliance work, but really we got our footing in modeling back in probably the year 2000 when we started the company. I'm also the president of a company called VDCO Tech Data, where we're specializing in data interoperability and open standards. So I'm a licensed general contractor. I grew up in the field with my dad in construction and realized that I wasn't going to be out there with a shovel and hammer and driving the backhoe all the time. I wanted to kind of take a different route to get to where I am today, and really happy to be here. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. Welcome, Cindy. So happy to have you. Lindsay. Oh, Lindsay, you might be on mute.
Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Nice to see everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Lindsay Prichard-Fox. I am the founder and CEO of BuiltHappy. We are focused on providing design and BIM coordination support in the custom residential space. I am also the North American coordinator for Women in BIM. So all of the wonderful participants from today are regional leads that represent the different geographies across North America. And it's part of my job to get everyone on the same page and put our agendas together and really create some great initiatives.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us as well, Lindsay. And we have a fourth and final panelist today, Susan. If you want to introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining. I see that the attendee list is just continuing to increase, so thank you very much for joining. I'm Susan Brattberg. I'm co-founder and chief customer officer at Global eTraining. So I've been in the industry for over a decade, well over a decade. I think Global eTraining is having its 14th birthday this year. So we've definitely seen a lot of changes over the years. And definitely seeing a lot more of an inclusive and diverse workforce, which is amazing to see. We've been an early supporter of Women in BIM. We know Rebecca well. She's one of our course authors, but she's the founder of Women in BIM. And we've been a sponsor or a supporter this whole time, but are so excited that we are now a corporate sponsor of Women in BIM. And at Global eTraining, we are pleased to help architecture, engineering, construction firms all over the world accelerate their training programs to attract and retain top talent and be more competitive. So it's an exciting conversation. Let's get into it.
Amazing. Thank you as well, Susan. Yeah, well, thank you everyone for joining us today. Obviously, we have some great panelists. For those that are signing on now, we did do a little overview of Global eTraining and Women in BIM, which we'll send it to you after. And I'm excited to get into a really cool discussion today about women in the digital built environment. And I'm seeing more of you signing on from Australia, lots of cool places here. So like I said, in that place where you're throwing in where you're from, feel free to throw in any comments or questions for our speakers today. With that said, let's get rolling. Okay, so firstly, are there any ways to grow the number of women in digital leadership? If so, how do we achieve this? So yeah, like I said, it's going to be a discussion today, but Abarna, if you want to get us rolling, I'd love it if you start it up.
Thank you. When I look at this question, the first thing that comes to mind is exposure. Growing up, I've met a lot of people who, mom and dad, they're in their respective industries, and who are our role models? Our parents or our aunts and uncles or cousins or whoever it is. So understanding what's out there, it's a lot to take on. Guidance counselors can only help so much, family members can only help so much. To answer this kind of on the flip side, I want to share two personal stories. One is my own family member. She wanted to go into construction management and kind of work up the ladder because she saw her dad as a contractor and looked up to him and thought, hey, this is pretty cool. I want to go into this industry. But sadly enough, I have unfortunately, other family members who thought, you know what, that's not a woman's space. Guys are not going to listen to you. You're going to have to be on the construction field. You know, who's going to take you seriously? But had I known this conversation was happening, I could have said, there's other aspects to the industry that don't require you to always be on the construction field. You can work for a private firm. You can work in the public sector. You can start your own business. There's so many different angles. So with digital leadership, it's the same thing. It's that exposure. It's not just, I need to work for a little ma and pa shop, or all the way on the other side working for Autodesk, or any other country that, any other company that is available all across the world. There's so many different aspects to it, and so that one little anecdote is kind of on the negative side of things, where exposure was not enough. But on the other side, an intern candidate that I was interviewing said exactly that when I asked, why do you want to get into the digital space? And her answer was, my dad's in it. And initially I thought I want to go into one particular stream, but one day it was take your kid to work day. And so I got a chance to see what my dad was doing, and I was amazed at the cool things he was doing. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to go to school for this and just leave the door open, see where life takes me, because I love Revit. I want to see where it can take me, and I want to get as much experience as I can. And this is an 18-year-old super excited to enter the space. And so having that exposure, just reaching out to fellow colleagues, having them talk to their kids, or going to school and talking to the students, just saying, hey, all you need is sometimes just that one course, and then it could open up so many different doors. And then from there, their ambition is just going to build and making their way up the ladder to becoming future role models, or just changing the space, or just asking the right questions to open more doors for more people. So again, going back to exposure, I think that's going to be one of the biggest things that we can provide for women in digital leadership.
Yeah, and we want to open that up for anyone else here too. I don't know if any of the rest of you have kind of thoughts on that. That's a really great thought.
Well, the Women in BIM stats that we had discuss how many women want to get into this industry, but many women don't want to do public speaking. And the sense that we're getting in the community is that there's just a lack of awareness. I feel like technology roles in construction need their own dedicated PR firm, just to help people understand that technology and construction are hand in hand. They're friends now. So you wouldn't want your contractor to show up without their power tools. You wouldn't want to, your architectural firm or any of the other players in construction to not show up with the most advanced and strong power tools to get the job done. Bringing that out into the world and say, hey, this is a VR, AR, XR, all the fun gamification stuff that's happening in the broader world is happening in construction, and there is a thirst for talent to move in. So maybe you don't get to go be a game designer, but maybe you get to design real buildings.
And I also think it's important. I agree with everything both ladies have said here today, but explaining I think there might be an age gap as well, right? So as the younger generation is coming in and they're very tech savvy versus maybe the people that currently hold leadership roles in your organization, they might be in my age demographic, in the 50s, 60s, and maybe even 70s, right? So maybe not as tech savvy, went to school, didn't have a computer. I know, shocking, my kids think I'm totally in the history books. So with that kind of being said, age-wise, it's always important for me to articulate, on whether it's for the owners or for contractors that we consult, to explain the people that are going to come into the workforce grew up. Not only, they don't know how to write cursive, they don't know how to use pen and paper the way you do. Everything is digital. So if you're going to continue to operate and have a company, you're really going to have to embrace this new generation that's coming in that grew up with technology. And I think that also helps kind of bridge that gap and give you more opportunities as digital leadership is going to become more and more prevalent through every organization, not just our industry.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I completely think that you've hit the nail on the head, Abarna, with exposure. And it's not just the people that are already in the industry moving into leadership roles. We need to attract more people into the industry in general, and then those people in the industry then working with them and how can they enhance their careers and grow their careers in this industry.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like that kind of takes us into a natural seg of our next question here. Of course, like I said, if anyone has any questions or follow-ups they want answered on these, just throw them in the chat. We're happy to discuss. Okay, how do we encourage more women to move to senior digital roles in the built environment? You finished off, Susan, if you want to start us off with this one.
Sure. Well, as founder of Global eTraining, I truly believe that skills training solves a lot of problems. And I think that's my answer for how do we encourage more women to move into senior digital roles. It also is a way to attract what we just talked about, attract more people in the industry and then advance their careers into senior roles. And I guess my answer is education, skills training, upskilling, and proving the skills competency. In my perspective, it's the equalizer. So it's a way to attract and retain top talent in a diverse workforce, but also for those individual people in the organization, they get to demonstrate their skills in an objective way, and nobody can take that away from them. So I really believe it is an equalizer. It doesn't matter who you are. If you know your stuff, you know, you're going to advance in the industry because you're going to be more efficient on projects. You're going to have less downtime, and you're going to be able to have certifications. So I think that in the old days, maybe the hot shots, the ones that said, oh, I know this or I know that, they were the ones advancing in their careers because there was no way to really prove what do they actually know or not know. And now we've got really easy ways to be able to show your skills, and especially like Global eTraining, what we have is, you know, you can show your progress on courses, your test scores, your certifications, but at the end of the day, you're really efficient and effective project work. And so I think that is a very key piece of being an equalizer, and also a way. Well, Lindsay mentioned how women are, you know, one of the things that they're scared of is public speaking. So it's an objective way to put themselves out there. They don't have to go and do a big presentation. They just have to do their jobs really well and demonstrate their skills. So
yeah, I 100% agree with you, Susan, and I didn't mean to step on you, so I'm sorry. But
please do.
You know, when I get resumes of people that submit resumes to me and want to get hired, and they have all of these certifications, amen, it goes right to the top of the stack, right? So we want people that can have proven, measurable, you know, some sort of metric that shows that they have this experience. What I encourage my interns and people who work with me that are younger is say, look, it's not only how that you go get those certifications, it's how you ultimately apply it. And if you don't know how to apply it, that's okay. I don't expect you to understand my pain point or my client's pain point at this point. I just ask you to not make me look stupid. You know, like, be a champion for me, because if technology is not my strong suit, and yet I had an intern from University of Florida that's working for me this summer, and he said to me, you know, I appreciate the way you do that, but do you know there's a plugin that you can use that might save you some time? And I helped him word that in such a way and said, oh my God, you just became my right hand. Like, that saved us so much efficiency. So the only area I would maybe challenge you a little bit, I don't think it's an equalizer. I think if you have an employee that has your certifications, that came to me and had your training and your certifications, and it was part of a resume, it's actually a competitive advantage at that point. You know, Completely. So, if you can use that, and even if you don't know how to apply it, you come in and work with your manager or your project manager, whoever you're partnered with, just to make them more efficient, you will start to shine through that technology. And that's where leadership starts to grow, right? Leadership is through selfless service of others. So using your technology skills to be able to provide that, I think is really a competitive advantage for women and for the younger generation coming in that's so tech savvy.
Absolutely. I love that. It is a competitive advantage for the individual. And then companies that invest in training and development of their staff, that's a huge advantage for the company in general, because then they can use that as their competitive advantage, because they're going to have a trained workforce that can do projects better, more efficiently, more productively, more profitably, and they'll be competitive to win more bids, and then, like we talked about, to attract and retain that top talent. An interesting stat I was sharing with you guys earlier before we pressed play, but a really interesting stat that I found was 94% of employees said they'd stay at a company longer if it invested in their learning and development. So that's a huge competitive advantage for companies to be able to attract and retain this top talent.
One of my favorite things about being part of Women in BIM is the global reach. Because one of the things that we our brains jump to and automate to is, how do you move into senior digital roles? But in some parts of the world, we're still identifying what digital roles are.
Right.
And so by having connectivity through this organization, we get a pulse on what the UK is doing, what Australia is doing, and across North America, just, East Coast to West Coast. And it is an ever moving target. How do I have competency in a role where I can feel confident to go to the leadership or management and say, I'm ready for a move up the ladder, because it is a moving target. If there are not, the roles in building information modeling are not well defined, and they can have extreme scope creep. So having conversations with the Women in BIM group, we do a third Thursday that we just started last month. That's our regional leads, and we just kind of open it up for anyone who is a member of Women in BIM or interested in being a Women in BIM member to come on, and we just come up with, soft topics that are a knowledge share.
Cool.
And one of this is like, well, what are the titles associated with BIM roles? So how do I know if I'm a junior digital specialist or a senior digital specialist?
That's interesting. I didn't even know about those. I'm going to start training those too.
I'd like to add my 2 cents to this question too. I'm going to give it a little bit of a different perspective. There are 2 things that I've noticed in my 10 years here. So one, I'm going to take from my Canadian experience. There's a thing called, I think it's like Canada's best managed companies, and there's a certain number of companies that can make it, but they have a criteria. So one of the things, and this is going to be a very superficial answer for any leaders that are attending the call today, if you're looking for those accolades for the company, having women in senior digital roles is actually one of those qualifications. So I know it's superficial, it's kind of a checkbox, and it can seem offensive to some because it's like, did I earn it, or am I just being put to fill a seat? But from a company's perspective, I think this is a good first stepping stone to encourage more women to move up the ladder, because you got to be qualified to make it up there. So yes, those accolades that the individual has is going to qualify that person. It's not just an empty seat. But B, there's a different perspective. There are statistics where women are able to provide a different perspective to a business and the culture and all of that. The very first company I ever worked for in the BIM space, it was very heavily male dominated in the beginning, but by the time I left, it was almost 50-50. It was such a lovely journey to see for that company to start from, maybe it was 200 people in the beginning, and by the end of it, it was a few hundred more, but there were far more women and of different age ranges and backgrounds and disciplines that they were coming from. So the culture naturally shifted to a more inclusive environment and educational environment, which was great to see. And so the person like me who started in the early days having a more options, if you will, for mentors within the company that were not just male but female as well. So I got different perspectives there. So that's one angle. The other angle that I wanted to bring for this is one person I spoke to years ago who openly said women are not moving into senior leadership roles. If anything, the number is decreasing. And it's kind of similar in many different industries. But the question that arises is, why is that the case? Why are there not enough? Why the proportions are off? And I think part of that is inclusivity. Is the work environment encouraging women to go into those leadership roles? Are they expecting women to work, the 50 hours, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week and neglecting different aspects of their life which are naturally on their plate? So therefore they're prioritizing differently, whereas our male counterparts are able to do that because their plate looks different than the female's plate. So do we have inclusive work environments? New moms, do they have an environment that they can return to? One of the things that I did when I first entered the industry, in the beginning, I thought, you know what, I'm not going to have kids just yet. I want to make a name for myself in my career. I'll hold off on kids. I'll hold off on relationship. But I attended a panel where someone said, well, if you're qualified, that opportunity will come back to you in some way or form. Maybe not now because you're choosing to prioritize differently, but maybe in 5 to 10 years that opportunity or a better opportunity will come and find you because you're still going to work on yourself. Your career is still important to you. You're still going to learn. You're still going to grow. So maybe you're not going to get the senior PM role now, but you'll get it in 5 years. So right now you're prioritizing differently. But is the work environment allowing for us to even take that tiny break? Are they going to still say, hey, Abarna still qualified to be a senior PM, so let's put a pin on it because she requested so. Let her do her thing, and then when she's ready, that opportunity is still there for her in 3, 4, 5 years. Is that environment still available, or is it, you know what, you didn't get the opportunity, therefore we're going to pass you on and not consider you in the future? So that's definitely a question for each and every company to ask themselves, senior leadership to ask themselves, to say, are we treating everybody the same? Are we still providing the same opportunity? Or is it, hey, does the answer not right now equal no permanently? So just my little 2 cents of looking at it from a different angle. And so attendees, if you have any follow-up questions, please ask.
Yeah, that's a great thought. And I do think that we have a little opportunity in our last question to go and set you in further, because I think that's a really interesting topic. I will move on to the next one. So how can women in BIM support more women in the digital construction space, particularly those who are looking to move into management positions in their companies? And Lindsay, if you don't mind, maybe you want to get this one started for us.
This is one of my favorite things because just the networking opportunities, being able to have a knowledge share platform. I felt like right before COVID, I was picking up steam, and then COVID kind of happened and things shut down, but then there were new platforms. There was new ways to connect with people, like Zoom, and webinars were like way more straightforward. Susan was talking about her new office actually having a special panel that she can put behind her just for Zoom meetings or whatever webinar is getting hosted. But like I was saying, with the group of women in BIM, I met Rebecca DeChico is the founder, and her sister Nicole at AU in 2019. And being able to talk to individuals that are occupying really big seats in totally different countries was just so eye-opening to me. And when I got involved in this organization, I needed it to be, people have the same reaction. Women in BIM exists. I want to be part of this because I'm in a BIM role and it can be very isolating. You sit in your computer, you're managing information, you're catching all of the mistakes that all the other people are doing. So it does get down to being able to have a platform to talk to others in the industry. And our mentor program has been profound. It has had profound impact, not only on our mentees, but on our mentors. And one of my little taglines is like calling all leaders, mentor the talent that you seek, because the program that we've created creates connectivity on multiple tiers of roles in the industry. So someone new to the industry can have access to someone that has been in the industry for an extremely long time. We had one mentor that was so exhausted with the industry, didn't feel like there was having throughput, and she was about to leave, got involved in our program, had an incredibly energetic mentee that inspired our mentor to, you know, push through the hard things that are related to the industry and this role, and was so grateful that it was this mutualistic experience.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm the regional lead for Florida with Women in BIM. I agree with you, Lindsay. You know, you're only as strong as your network. So there's, you know, Women in BIM is a network of women that are invested in our industry and invested in each other. And it's just a wonderful resource. If I don't know it, you know, it's one of the first places I can go to ask. Does somebody know? You know, where can you guide me? Where can you direct me? So that's just as a professional already in the industry. But I think the work that Lindsay, you are doing, as well as international with the mentor program, and having sponsors like Susan that have continued to invest in the industry and within us as women in the industry, I think is really, really commendable. So I know Abarna also is a regional lead as well. And we reach out and we're able to connect with each other and to assist each other as we also continue to grow within our own fields and our knowledge base and, you know, within the industry at large.
I agree. Having networked with a bunch of folks, I don't know if there are a lot of folks on the call here that got spammed by me on LinkedIn saying, hey, you know, I'm the regional lead for Phoenix. We have a North American group starting up on LinkedIn. Go look for it if you're not part of it. And, you know, we're just trying to get the word out there that we exist. And I think about 70% of the folks that responded saying, wait, what? You, like, there's a Women in BIM? Tell me more. And so they've gravitated to the group. And when we held our very first in-person event back in December here in Phoenix, most of the attendees that came, they basically said, well, I just got into the BIM space and I don't know what's out there. I don't know who's out there. And honestly, I would love to learn, but it's just kind of overwhelming right now, because there's so much and so little at the same time. So little in the sense of network. Who can they talk to? Who can they connect with? Who can they geek out with? And then so much in the sense of when you just, you know, Google it, the number of resources, the number of people, the groups worldwide, the standards, it's just so much kind of just coming in your direction. So Women in BIM definitely helps kind of give a little bit of an iceberg, the tip of the iceberg for each and every little thing. And then it's just up to the individual to kind of research it from there on out, instead of just hitting a tidal wave all at once. So definitely hoping for Women in BIM to grow. I mean, the numbers are right there, showing that every year we're getting an exorbitant amount of people just attending, members and allies. So, you know, we can't be where we are without the allies as well. So I think
one of my favorite parts is that we have Women in BIM was founded by women, and therefore it is called Women in BIM. However, the champions of this, the means and methods to evolve construction and, you know, achieve some of the big United Nations goals for sustainability and, like, you know, decreased carbon footprints and, you know, more women moving into, you know, leadership roles. it is so inclusive. It is, you know, we had another in-person event at Geo Week. Abarna and I hosted a happy hour, and it was wonderful. There was so much knowledge share and discussion, and we were in a reality capture based conference. So the overlap with building information modeling and reality capture was just so, I mean, just blows your mind. So much fun.
Also, thank you for bringing up Geo Week. There was a dad we met at the happy hour who said, I'm going to be an ally because I want my daughter to have people to look up to, groups to look up to, and industries to look into, because obviously he's coming from more of a male-dominated era. And so he's wanting to provide that opportunity to his daughter who's still in elementary school. So I thought that was really cool. That was his reason for joining as an ally.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up about how inclusive Women in BIM is. That's really important to us. So Global eTraining is founded by 3 women and 1 man, and he keeps saying, don't forget the men, because obviously anybody that supports an inclusive workplace, whatever that looks like, is what's going to make the difference here. And when my background actually is in sociology and organizational dynamics, and so learned a lot about people, a lot about sociology, and what I learned is you could learn everything and you'll still never know it all. People are so fascinating. But one of the things that really, really sticks with me is in an organizational dynamic perspective is that the more diverse the team is, the stronger the team is. And so we can all really just support each other and create a really diverse and inclusive workplace. And that is going to be the strongest team, and then therefore the most competitive companies as well.
I think it's the nature of building information modeling too. You know, it is the sharing of information. It is the way to translate, make high quality, accessible data to the broader team. And so it fits so much to my nature that it's just really invigorating to have a group of professionals that I can speak to, and I go, am I crazy or is this awesome? Why is everybody so slow to adapt? And everyone's like, yeah, no, you're not crazy. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll keep running then.
I love that. Am I crazy or is this awesome? That's great. I do just want to share with you guys, we just had someone, some people here saying they would love a mentor and asking how to get started. Which is really awesome. We will follow up in our email about that. That's great. Glad people bring people into it. Women in BIM is amazing. Let's roll on to the next one here. We also have some questions in the chat for you guys. Maybe we'll get time for 1 or 2 of those. How are many women are leaving the construction industry as a result of the pandemic or carrying duties? This is a little bit what we were talking about earlier. How do we make the construction industry an industry of choice for women? Cindy, if you maybe want to field this one to get started.
I'll jump in, and you'll see how my crazy mind thinks a little bit when I tackle this question. So when I look at the question, I instantly think I need to understand where that gap is between men and women in the industry, right? So, you know, to look at some statistics, in 2020, the World Bank had female labor force participation rate overall was 47.7, while the male participation rate in the labor industry was 74.7. So it's a 27% difference. So you think, okay, that's there. And then we had the Global Gender Gap Report, which came out, which was the World Economic Forum. And they were saying that the participation rate in the difference between men and women was really about 31%. So we can say it's going to go from 25, let's say, to 35, if you're looking at where the variance is and the delta is going to be. So I wanted to dig into that. That's worldwide. But if I wanted to look at just what it was here in the United States, I said, okay, let's back it down into where the US statistics are. And the US Bureau of Labor Statistics in April 21 said that women over the age of 20, we represented 56.2% of the labor workforce. And men in the same breath was, if that was 56, they were coming in at 68.4. So our delta is only 12% here in the United States. So we don't have nearly the gap, the gender gap here in the United States that they do worldwide. And then when we started to look at where people were leaving during the pandemic, McKinsey company did a study, and 1 in 4 women were looking to either leave or completely change careers at that point. So if we're trying to understand where that demographic is, now we're going to take it even another step and say, why are they ultimately leaving? Well, a lot of times women are leaving, just as Abarna had said, we're leaving because we're going to stop our careers, either leave completely our careers because we're going to prioritize our families maybe. And it's not, I have children and I work. So, so don't take that the wrong way, but you might want to be a stay-at-home mom. You have elder care for your parents. So there's a lot of reasons that women choose to leave the workforce. But if we look at overall why all people leave the workforce, knowing that women kind of take that burden and that share, we work 3 more hours than men in a caring environment, whether that's for our children or our parents statistically. So knowing that we already have that just by who we are, why are people leaving? Well, they're leaving because they don't have work-life balance, the parental leave policies, whether it's for your children or your elderly parents, career development. What is that repurposed path to get back into the workforce once you've taken that hiatus, maybe for our initial family caring? And how do you have that collaboration and that career development, those mentorship roles, all things that we've talked about? What do we need then as a company to bring you back? Well, we need to have flexible work options first and foremost, right? But it needs to not only be what works for you, it needs to be what works for the company you work for as well. It has to be a partnership. I have a lot of times, I just had a gentleman today get on the phone with me, a young employee that was like, I have a hard time getting to bed at night. I'd like to start my day at 11. Well, I'm sorry, but my work day, I can't do that. We need to work with you a little bit. I can have some flexibility, maybe not 8, 9, but I can't have you come in at 11. Right? So flexibility has to go both ways. What are those programs that companies have in place to help re-engage women coming back or men coming back into the career paths post-pandemic? What does that compensation package look like with training? What does it look like with our benefits programs? You can have unique benefits. For instance, I'm a company that was virtual before COVID. So, I offer a different benefit package right there. And then I think you have to talk to women in their language. I think we need to understand that what are the women's strengths that we currently possess, and having those strengths, what does that mean as a skill set, and where's that our competitive advantage, right? So women's strengths, first and foremost, as an employee, our collaboration and our relationship building is definitely a trait that is more geared towards women, right? Our collaborative work environments, our emotional intelligence, our empathy, our intuition. Our intuition and our empathy helps us create these inclusive environments. It helps us get to yes faster a lot of times in really contentious work environments, because we'll step back and kind of see a bigger picture. Our communication skills usually as women is on a higher level. That's usually a trait that we have right off the bat, whether it's because we're talking to kids and all different kind of family and schools and teachers and work. We can usually operate in a diverse dialogue that we have to, and we can speak to people at different levels and still be very effective in our communication. So inclusive leadership, these are all of our strengths as women. You can Google that, that's what it'll come up with. Go to AI chat, same thing, it's going to tell you the same workloads. But now if you look at what makes a great leader in construction, they're no different. A great leader in construction has to have strong communication skills. They're going to have exceptional abilities at problem solving, at intuition. They're investing in team development, because we don't do it by ourselves, right? If we're on a construction team, we all come in it, we don't know each other, a bunch of strangers, we leave married at the hip and out the door we walk, because we built this project together. So the skills that we have intuitive to us as women is actually what makes strong leaders in our industry. So lead with that as we're trying to come back into the workforce. If you take a break because you've been on parental leave, or you had to work with a parent, hey, I've kept my skills up to date by doing XYZ training. I have also, this is what I've learned by being a mom. This is what I've learned by maybe being out of the workforce. And then this is the opportunity that I think it brings us into the industry. And those opportunities aren't just, I started by saying I grew up in the field with my dad in construction. My first job was counting curse words. So I was on construction sites, and my dad I'd get to pick, which site I'd go to by 3 different superintendents that I was allowed to stay with. And he would say, okay, when you're there today, I'd go and I'd have to pick up the garbage, whatever I was doing, keeping the clean job site, and count curse words. And then I'd get in the truck with my dad at the end of the day. I'd be like, oh my goodness, Uncle Benny, he said this many words today. They were nasty ones, and they were this many. And my dad knew there was something maybe going on in the job site. Whereas if I said Uncle Tex only said 10, and on the job site, he would know maybe there were some issues happening, right? They needed to step in. But those are all opportunities. I knew I didn't want to put a shovel. I knew I didn't want to drive the backhoe. But what did I want to be? Project manager, construction manager, site superintendent, estimator, business development manager, design manager, sustainability, safety managers, procurement managers, executives. There are so many opportunities. And I think when our industry is presented, whether it's to men or women, little boys love when I go to industry day with my hard hat and my vest and my boots. They think that's really cool a lot of times. But little girls really like it when I can show my computers and I can show the things that I've designed. And when you can show both, then you're reaching, I think, a wider audience. So I think how we ultimately get people to come back into our industry, how to make the industry an option for women and really a first choice is our opportunity, because there are so few of us in the industry. When I started, there was really 3 or 4 women. It was Brigida Foster, Diane Davis, Christine Fallon. These are legendary women who really paved the way for people like me and people like you that were working with GSA and VA and setting those standards. And you go to the conference and be 100 men and the 3 of them, and they'd shoot up a little sign, you know, and you'd be like, oh, I want to be like them one day, you know. And then it was women in BIM. And as this continues to grow, if you present our industry as, look, you go into retail, you go into hospitality, there's a lot of women there. You have a lot of competition. When you come into our industry, you don't have as many women. There's a lot of opportunity of where you can set yourself. And if you just rely on your strengths as a woman and you articulate that well, there is definitely opportunity for you. And I would hope that that's a message that we can continue to push out there in the industry.
That's amazing. I think you hit on a lot of good things there, Cindy. Interesting how the industry's changed as well. Mm-hmm. So in the last 14 years that I've been in the industry, we've always had a big presence at Autodesk University. And obviously now it's just starting to get live again. So I take a couple years off there. But I can see the shift in the industry just on our t-shirt orders, because we'd always give out, we were handing out 1,000 t-shirts at the event. And to start with, we'd have like all men's triple XL, double, single, triple, double, triple XL. So really interesting to see how things have changed. And we would order women's shirts and they wouldn't go. We'd be stuck with them at the end of the day. We still have boxes of women's shirts that didn't go. And then our t-shirt orders for women grew and grew and grew and grew. And then also interesting that the average size went down. So I think people are younger and fitter, maybe, I'm not really sure, but we saw like just our t-shirt order demographics have changed a lot. And it is interesting that the industry is changing, and hopefully we'll see how it goes this year. But I think that, you know, it's just visible that there's a lot more women. I've been in it for 30 years. So, yeah. You know, in that demographic, there's many times I'm the only woman in the room. And that's still the case sometimes, especially in an executive leadership position. But I can tell you when those conferences and you saw 0, and then you saw the 3, you know, those 3 or 4 women, the lady with the VA, they all stuck kind of together and they were the speakers. And then it started to build. And now, you know, there's 10 or so. And then people are like, we need more women. I'm like, oh my God, you guys have so many more women in this room. You need to understand. Yeah, like we've come so far. And I think it's really exciting. I don't ever think of it being that there was a glass ceiling. I don't think of it in that way. I don't think of it that I was a woman and that, oh, look at my opportunity. I definitely used my strengths and presented that, but it was based on qualification. I never went in there and said, I'm a woman and I'm going to help you bring other women. I was like, look, I'm really qualified and I'm really good at what I do. I'm a licensed general contractor. I'm first CM BIM certified. I have open BIM certification. I went, I learned, and here's what I'm going to do for you. I am actually going to engage you and your client. I'm going to educate our entire workforce. I'm going to make sure that we have the equipment that we need to succeed. Then I'm going to encourage, I'm going to empower the people that need to be empowered. And I'm hoping that that's black, white, red, yellow, women, men, binary, non-binary, whoever the hell it is. I'm going to empower the people that will step up to the plate and do the work. We're going to energize that work base, which that's women in BIM. I think women in BIM, Building Smart, you know, USA International, we have the National BIM program. There's so many organizations right now, US IBD, that are all stepping up to the plate and really trying to bring harmony to our industry. And then ultimately, we're going to elevate. And when we elevate, we're going to elevate ourselves. We're going to elevate the women that are with us and the people that want to go on us in this journey. And then ultimately, you're going to see the digitization and the virtualization of our industry at large. And to me, I was in it before it tipped, and I definitely know that it tipped.
And then now you can see where it's starting to really push forward. So just super excited about the opportunities that are, I think, here for all of us.
I count the bathroom lines.
That's a good way to know.
I was at the, I've been 3 times. Of course, the lines were very short for women the first 2 years. And then in 22 at New Orleans, I actually stood in line and it was like out the door and I like clapped.
Oh.
And I'm like, there's a line for the lady.
That's amazing.
One thing I'd like to add to this is, from a company perspective, something as simple as childcare. Sure, don't cover it, but maybe there's a nearby childcare facility that you can work a deal with, because there was a project, or there is a project out here in North Phoenix, where if you look at the demographics, it's a wide range from folks just out of high school entering the industry, whether as an apprentice for one of the contractors or working at the trailers on the BIM side of things. A big conversation was, I got to get home so I can pick up my kid from childcare. And it doesn't matter if it was a male or female that had to do that. So something as simple as, if your company has a large scale project and you require your people to be physically out in that space for long hours, and you know the commute is not going to be ideal for anyone, it would be nice to have some level of a deal with a local childcare provider to say, hey, my people have kids of this age. Can we work out a deal, give them some kind of a discount, or we'll subsidize it? That way, you know, mom, dad, caregiver, whoever it is able to fulfill their job for the required hours, and it's a win-win situation. Folks will want to continue to work their, 8, 9, 10-hour days and not have to worry about, I need to leave at 3:30 so I can get there at 5 or 4 or whatever the time is to pick up my kid. Otherwise, I'm paying extra, or there's nobody to look over them, or my babysitter is gonna, or nanny, whoever it is going to cause havoc. I think that makes a huge difference, and it says a lot, because it's no longer just for, the moms. It's not just for the dads. It can be any of the caregivers that are in the picture here, and it's the company saying, we get it. We understand that you have a life outside of the workspace, and we may not be able to do much, but this is something that we're able to do to make your life a little bit easier. And it contributes to that work-life balance, because commute is one of those things. Taking care of your children is one of those things. And so earlier it was mentioned that, talk to the people, talk to your team, and try to figure out what works for them, because every company is different. Everyone's got different demographics. Everyone's got different priorities, and see what the theme can be, and kind of figure out what could work and get a conversation started. There was a conference that I went to. There was, sorry. I'm sorry?
11 a.m. I want to start my day at 11 a.m. Can you help me out?
Me too.
No. I agree with Barney, because it's not about saying you're empathetic. It's about showing that you're empathetic. It's not about saying that I value. It's about how you show that you value the talent that's at your, that's doing the work to make your company successful.
Look, it's working with your HR departments. Big companies can do a lot more than small companies, right? So, I brought my baby to work. I did a presentation 3 days after childbirth, had the baby outside. My assistant carried it. It wasn't because I was made to, it was because I'd worked so long on that project that when the shortlist came back as a government project, just happened to fall, I'd already had the baby, and I went in and did it. They allowed me to sit as opposed to stand. It was a little difficult, and off you do, and you do these presentations. I brought the baby to work. But what you do for one, you have to do for others. So, you have to make sure that your policies and speaking with your HR departments of what you can and can't offer. And I just try to always, be able to articulate, like the young man who asked me today to start his day at 11. Well, I can't do that, but I did give him an offer. I said, I have a meeting from 10 to 11. So if you'd like to start at 12 tomorrow, that's fine, but I'm not going to pay you for the 3 hours. I'm not going to allow you to then work 12 to 8 because I'm not working tomorrow past 5. I can't then monitor you and see what you're doing on your workforce. So I do think communication is really, really important, allowing that flexibility for really everyone in our industry to say, hey, here's what it is, and then be able to articulate back why you can or can't. Because ultimately, look, we're a business, right? The people we work for, it's a business. If we respect their business, hopefully they respect us. And vice versa. If I respect my employees and my teammates, hopefully that they in turn know that to give back to me, if I've been good to them, hopefully to give back to me is to provide really great service to our clients. So then it's kind of that win-win. And I think that's an inherent ability that women have, mothers have, or the female gender have, for the most part, in having that kind of intuition and empathy that we can communicate that across the board to create those packages of compensation benefits that have value to the people we're trying to attract. So it's going to be very different for someone that can come into the office versus someone in the field. Someone in the field, you have to be there at this time and this time, and that's the reality of the job. So know what you're signing up for. But that's why, to me, when I said all the opportunities are there, it wasn't just, my dad was in the field. My dad hard bid. He built most of the bridges in Florida were my father. Built I-4. If anybody in Orlando, don't blame me. It's a horrible road, but my dad was one of the first guys that did that as an engineer. So, I was up there and on those projects, and I just knew I wanted to do our industry, but I didn't want to do that. And I actually went to school for a broadcast journalism degree, and worked in television before I came back to my real love, which was our industry, and found where there's value. So
I had some thoughts to share about the interview process that I got to experience through our both years that I've worked with women in BIM for the matching phase. So I have to interview the mentors and the mentees. But Jessa, I wanted to be thoughtful about time and questions. So I can pause that if there are questions that.
You go ahead. I just need 1 minute at the end to wrap up and let people know how we will answer their questions.
What I've noticed about women in the industry, and it was very much like poll the audience, was that there is, and I'm going to say this because I'm a woman's son and I'm not in a man's brain. Women need throughput, they need purpose, and they need passion. And if they don't get that throughput, then they get fatigued and then they're going to jump out. So with an industry that has struggled to digitize, struggled to recognize the value or the need to digitize, we've seen a lot of really incredible talent just get fatigued because they were not getting the throughput and they didn't get their purpose fulfilled and their passion fulfilled. One of the things that seems to be helping is that, one, if you have connectivity, you can have a group of people that are reinforcing you when you're starting to lose steam and enthusiasm for what you're doing, and reach out to that network and do that. Am I crazy? But it also comes down to new people coming into the industry. I refer to it as a beachhead female. Is there someone in a leadership or someone in a seat that looks like me that I don't need the room to be 50-50, but is there someone there that looks like me or that I could maybe hope has some sort of same brainwaves? Those benchmark leaders, whether or not they're in a true leadership position or not, they're still leaders, are what new people or people who want to move up in the industry can kind of grab onto and say, well, she's doing it, I want to do it, let's keep it going. And Cindy very much referred to it, the three women you saw as leaders at all those conferences fueled your passion. And I don't know if you had any connection with them, but perhaps you fueled them, because I've known women who were ready to leave that didn't leave because they recognized that they were adding value and that they had a different purpose than they thought they did, because they realized that there are new talents that need them. They need to have that benchmark female there to get them really vested in the industry.
And look, if we're talking about benchmark females, Susan, you are the benchmark female by far in what you've done with global e-training. So the organization and the stuff that you have, there, you can't say that you don't know where to learn, because right here, thank you for hosting the webinar really with all of us, because of the work that you guys are doing in the classes. It's really an opportunity for us to go, if we don't have it in our own organizations, we know where to go find it, to go how to learn and to do things better.
Yeah, then we can go campaign to our organizations there. This is amazing.
Yeah. Way to go, Susan.
Well, thank you. I as a new mom, I have a 3-year-old and a 10-month-old, and I can just appreciate everything that you're saying from a different perspective than when I first entered the industry. And the flexibility, I know you just said that, Cindy, too, but flexibility is so important. And I think as a way to attract people and keep people in the industry, I think any flexibility that we can offer is going to help. And this whole pandemic situation has just proven that people can work remotely, they can learn remotely. So let's not forget that and jump so far into the old ways. Like, we're capable of learning and working remotely, and let's use technology to elevate the workplace. So we use that in a training perspective. We use technology to learn the picks and clicks, so you could still have an amazing instructor-led session, but at the more strategic level. You can do the same thing in a meetings. You don't have to be together face-to-face all the time. You can leverage technology and then be more strategic when you have that valuable face time. So that's just one important note, and I just have a huge appreciation for any working parent right now.
Yeah, it's hard when your brain is split so definitively in such important aspects of life.
Yeah.
I have to make a human now. Oh wait, I made a human. Now I have to make sure I like them when they're all grown up.
That's awesome. I feel really inspired by all of you, and I feel like I learned a lot today, so I'm sure everyone that tuned in did as well. We do have a ton of great questions here. Anyone that asks a question, we will follow up with you via email. There's a few questions that are definitely repeated here, like about if we have a webinar replay, how to get involved with women in BIM, how to get involved with global e-training. So all that stuff I'll just send out in the general follow-up email so everyone can see it and for sure has access to it. Once again, if you don't see it, definitely check your spam. But if you do have any last minute questions that just you personally want to know, throw them in right now and I'll make sure that we get back to you on all of those. Firstly, just thank you so much, all of you guys, for joining us today. Like I said, I learned a lot and feel really good about our industry, having heard you guys talk and knowing you guys are leaders in it. So thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great. I hope we can have you all again sometime.
Putting you together, it was a wonderful thing, and it was great to have more time with all of you.
Yeah, thank you, Vi. Thank you all. And thanks everyone for attending as well.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Look for your follow-up email to all of our attendees. And huge thank you to our panelists today. Yeah, everyone have a great day, and we will see you guys soon.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.